It has been 23 years since the tragic 9/11 attack, and every year events are held across the nation to honor the 343 Fire Department of New York firefighters and all 2,977 victims who died. Here in the Lowcountry, first responders and people in the community will come together to participate in the 9/11 Silent Walk. Participants will walk from Charleston across the Arthur Ravenel Jr. Bridge and then onto the USS Yorktown in Mount Pleasant. Joining us now to talk about the 11th annual 9/11 Silent Walk is the executive director for the event, Tian Griffith. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you.
You guys have been doing this for 11 years, and how did it start?
11 years ago, Joe Johnson, a friend of mine, he sent me a text message. He said, "Hey, let's go do something on 9/11." I was a firefighter at Somerville Fire Department then, and I said, okay, let's do something. And so he decided, you know what, let's go walk across the Charleston Ravenel Bridge, and Ravenel Bridge in Charleston. I said, okay, well, let's do that. And so we went and we walked, and was to our surprise that we met Warren Pepper at the other end of the bridge, and he wanted to talk to us about what we were doing on 9/11. And so our goal was always to kind of try to bring awareness to what 9/11 was and why it was important, and speak to those lives lost. Then we just kind of were thinking about and speaking about the 343 firefighters that died on 9/11, but it was actually about 2,977 victims that died that day.
Now, we've got some video of previous walks, and you're not just walking across the bridge, you're walking in full turnout gear. Tell me how that feels, what that experience is like.
It's exhausting. When you look at what that task is, to walk that 5.5 miles from Charleston to Patriots Point to the flight deck and ring that bell in honor of the firefighters that died that day and the police officers that died that day, it's a daunting task. But then we think about the firemen that would go on 9/11, all 110 floors, that went past civilians as they worked their way up to try to extinguish fire and work their way to try to solve problems that day. The enormous task at hand to rescue people, the enormous task at hand to try to make a difference that day. Ultimately, most of them losing their lives.
Now, it's called the Silent Walk, but we spoke earlier, you said it's not really silent.
No, it's hot. It's humid. Guys are talking. Folks are sharing, their memories that day. And it's what's important. It's a place to gather. On 9/11, the one thing we started to notice over the years is that people that left New York City to move to the South, they were looking for a place. And I believe that place has always been the 9/11 Silent Walk. And so we've tried to create a space for people to be together. And so this year, when you talk about 9/11, we have our keynote speaker, Dennis Acosta, who was in Tower 1 when the second plane hit the second tower on the 18th floor. When he comes on 9/11 and shares his experiences, his stories from that day, it draws again, the realities of the loss that day. People that were lost, the people that are still victimized through suicide, through empty seats at their kitchen tables, as a result of those lives lost that day.
And I understand you're taking an opportunity to do something for someone very special in the community who's no longer with us as well.
What we had to do, I had a chance to speak with Jessica Coates, and we spoke at length about the importance of her husband, Joe Coates, and so we talked about just what 9/11 meant, the early beginnings of our program. He wrote all of our plans. He's very important in setting up our foundational process of how we would do things, for making sure things were safe, things were done appropriately. And so we dedicated that service in the afternoon to him and to his family, for them sharing us with him, but also for his thoughts and his belief and his trust in what 9/11 was.
Again, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us and what you do as well. The event will be on September 11th. Participants will be shuttled from Patriots Point to the starting line. Then they will walk from Charleston across the Arthur Ravenel Jr. Bridge into Mount Pleasant. That ceremony will follow the walk at 10:30. Registration can be found on live5news.com in the big red box.